This one change has completely broken Total War for monstrous units. And this is all revolving around how splash attacks work. As you can see, these Warbear Riders have charged into a Tsar Guard, and arguably this should be something that they easily mop up due to their significant armor-piercing damage. But if you look at the damage we deal, it is not reflective of the weapon strength, as this is saying in the change in the blog. It should be doing a considerable amount more damage. We saw there that we did like a couple damage. We did like 2 or 3 damage. The overall DPS output that we have on our units at the moment have been dramatically reduced for monstrous infantry. Currently, right now, this also impacts the likes of the ogres as well with their cavalry. It seems this is isolated to cavalry, because what I'm seeing at the moment is a lot of the units that used to have more splash attack radius, so they used to be able to hit 3 targets, can now only hit 1, as you can see on screen here, which means that they will have a consolidated damage into one entity. So the way splash attacks work is it has a percentage chance to hit multiple different people. Here it's only alleged that it can only focus into one target, meaning the damage only goes into one entity. So technically what could be happening is if an entity is already really weak and they have maybe 10 health left on that single entity within the Tsar Guard, we're going to do that amount of damage into that entity because we don't splash onto anything else. So our entire weapon strength is going into a really weak unit, thus only providing a small amount of damage. This is a theory, and it has not confirmed, but that's what it feels like when I'm seeing numbers like 2 or 3 damage coming out from the Warbear Riders. This is not the damage you'd expect, and the reason why this is seeing is because of the fact that the splash targets has been reduced. And here's another example with the Ogres Crushers alongside the Moonfang Cavalry. As you can see, the collision damage is working as expected, but then once we start getting into melee and expecting these splash attacks to come through, we can see the damage is very much minimal. We can see that the numbers we're providing in the hits that we're actually achieving is relatively small. As you can see on this side as well, the numbers that we're doing and the actual consistency of damage that we're putting out is really limited. Like we did a single point of damage then, by the way. I just saw a single point of damage coming from a Mournfang Cavalry with 120 weapon strength, and 84 of that is armor piercing. So at the very bare minimum, we should be doing 85 damage in these hits. At the very bare minimum. And we just saw a single point of damage come through. So the splash targeting is very, very broken right now. So now let's dig into what the actual changes are. The splash attack targets. To provide more consistency and shift the meta, splash attack values for all units have been recalibrated using a 100-to-1 ratio. Meaning if you have 100 weapon strength, you will only have an additional splash attack target of 1 person. If I had 200 weapon strength, that means that I can have 2 additional splash attack targets. Meaning my overall DPS output in the grand scheme of things will be dramatically reduced because of the fact that I have to have a significant amount of weapon strength to actually kill things. So you can see here we've got Croxagores and we've got Sacred Croxagores fighting against a unit that arguably should just absolutely get completely crushed. But as you can see now, the overall damage that we're doing is just going so low. In the example of the blog, it says a unit with 500 weapon strength has 5 additional splash targets. Realistically, this is only possible for lords, right? The only way that that's feasible or possible is if it's a lord unit. There is no way that most of the monstrous infantry in the game will get anywhere near that level of weapon strength. The change is supposed to optimize splash attacks to ensure that units are operating at peak performance with measurable of gameplay consistency. I think the example here is that when you send a large monstrous in a live infantry, the engagement will be a little bit more consistent. This is not consistency in the slightest way, shape, or form. I think over here, we've done an alright job at fighting. I've run this simulation of fighting multiple times, and this is actually the number 1 best outcome I've seen for the Croxagores thus far. But you can see these Sacred Croxagores are pretty much losing against a single Tsar Guard here. So what has happened is the weapon strength is determining how many splash targets that you have as a unit, which is the reason why we saw at the very beginning of the video, the monstrous infantry and the monstrous cavalry has 1 splash attack because they only have 100 weapon strength or around 100 weapon strength. This, in my opinion, is not the way to make the splash targets work. I think this is a change that needs to be either reverted or redone because giving a unit 1 additional splash damage, it effectively changes its entire role. In the scenario where you're killing elite infantry, sure, I can see it working and I can see that as a good thing. But in the situation where we have Sacred Crocscars, we've got the Morgfang Cavalry, we've got the Warbear Riders, you have overall reduced their DPS by such a significant portion that it is just not a good change and needs to be quickly amended. Because right now, this is going to impact the Ogres, it's going to impact Kislev, it's going to impact Lizardmen, it's going to impact every single faction that has Monstrous Infantry. And so my ask is that CA looks into this one and reverts the changes, or thinks of how they can make it better. Because Monstrous Infantry should never in a million years lose against any kind of infantry unit. If it's monstrous, and if it's anti-large, fair enough, but it's not. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. I just wanted to let you guys know, if you're not crazy, if you've sent Monstrous Infantry into melee against infantry and you lost, you're not crazy. There's a bug right now with splash attacks where it is not performing how it should be.